A princess heard a slave's song and felt her heart soar free. But in a kingdom bound by chains and crowns, their love could spark a fire or burn them both to ash. The sky over Zuwena sparkled with stars, like tiny fires lit by the ancestors. In the village, the moon festival was alive with joy. Drums beat loud, fires glowed, and people laughed as they danced. Princess Amara, wrapped in an old shawl to hide her fancy dress, sneaked out of the palace. Her heart jumped with excitement. She was tired of being stuck inside, and tonight, she wanted to feel free. Amara was 19, and her life was full of royal rules. How to sit, what to say, who to be. But the festival, a big party to thank the moon and honor the ancestors, called to her. She wanted to dance and laugh like everyone else. Slipping past the guards, she ran to the village, her sandals soft on the dirt path. The village square was bright and busy. Women in colorful headscarves spun in circles, their dresses swirling. Children ran around, eating sweet sugar cane, their giggles loud. Amara moved through the crowd, pulling her shawl tight, so no one would see her royal bracelets. If the guards caught her, her father would be angry. Then she heard music, soft and beautiful, like water flowing over rocks. It came from a corner where a young man sat under a lantern, playing a kora. His fingers moved fast on the strings, making sounds that touched Amara's heart. His voice was warm as he sang a story about a bird caught in a net, singing about freedom even when it couldn't fly. Amara walked closer, her eyes on the man. His clothes were torn, and a rough rope belt showed he was a slave. But his face was strong, and his eyes glowed like the stars. He sang about the bird flying free, and Amara felt her heart lift, as if she could escape her own rules. Their eyes met. His fingers stopped, and one note hung in the air. He smiled, shy but kind, and Amara wanted to talk to him. She wanted to know his name and his story. But before she could speak, strong hands grabbed her. "Princess!" a guard shouted, pulling her away. "You can't be here." Amara turned, looking back at the man. His smile was gone, but his eyes stayed on hers, like they shared a secret. The guards dragged her toward the palace, the festival lights fading behind her. She held the memory of his song in her heart, like a treasure. As the palace gates closed, she whispered to the stars, "I'll see you again." The throne room in Zuwena was big and grand, with walls carved with pictures of old kings fighting lions. Sunlight came through tall windows, shining on the golden throne where King Zubri sat. His face was serious, like a storm cloud. Amara stood in front of him, her hands shaking. She wore a blue and gold dress now, but she felt small, like her father could see her secrets. "You broke my rules," Zubri said, his voice sharp. "You sneaked to the village like a thief. Do you know how dangerous that was, Amara? People could talk and cause trouble." Amara lifted her head, though she was scared. "I just wanted to see the festival, Father. I wanted to be with our people, not just hear about them from others." "Our people need order," Zubri said. "You're not a village girl to dance in the dirt. You're my daughter, the future of Zuwena. What you do matters to everyone." Queen Nia, sitting next to him, touched his hand. Her eyes were soft and kind. "Husband, she's young. She wants things the crown doesn't give her." Zubri frowned, but took a deep breath. "Being young doesn't excuse her. Amara, I've chosen your husband. Prince Jelani from Kweku will come soon. His kingdom will help us if there's no rain. You will marry him." The words hit Amara hard, like a stone in her chest. She knew she'd have to marry someday, but now it felt like a door closing. "Father, please." "No more." Zubri stood, his robe brushing the floor. "You'll do your duty. Guards, keep her in the palace." Amara's legs felt weak as she walked to her room. Malaika, her helper, was waiting, looking worried. Malaika was a little older, with braids and shells in her hair, and she was Amara's best friend. "What happened, Amara?" Malaika asked, helping her sit. Amara's voice shook. "They're making me marry a prince I don't know. And last night, I met someone, Malaika, a slave at the festival. His music felt like it was for me." Malaika's eyes got big. "A slave? Amara, you have to forget him. If the king finds out, it's not just you in trouble. That man could die." "I know," Amara said, tears in her eyes. "But how do I forget someone who feels so important?" That night, Amara stood by her window, looking at the moon. It reminded her of the lantern's light and the man's eyes. She didn't know his name, but his song was part of her now. She would find him again, even if it was dangerous. The sun burned hot over Zuwena's fields, where tall plants grew in neat rows. Slaves worked hard, cutting crops under the eyes of overseers. Amara, dressed in a plain brown robe and head wrap from Malaika, walked among them, her heart beating fast. She had given a guard a gold bracelet to stay quiet, but she was scared every moment. A kitchen worker had told her the kora player's name was Kofi, and he worked in the northern fields. Amara kept his name in her mind like a song. She hated seeing the slaves work so hard, their backs bent, while overseers shouted and cracked whips. How could her father's kingdom be so beautiful, but so unfair? Then she heard a voice, soft but strong, singing about a river carrying dreams. She followed it to a group of workers cutting plants. There was Kofi, his hands rough but quick, sweat on his face. His song stopped when he saw her, and he looked surprised. Amara knelt nearby, picking up fallen stalks to look busy. "Kofi," she whispered, so quiet no one else could hear. He looked around, checking for overseers. "You shouldn't be here," he said softly. "It's not safe." "I had to see you," Amara said, her words fast. "Your song at the festival, it's stuck in my heart." Kofi almost smiled. "And you're stuck in mine, girl who hides in shawls. But you're not a villager, are you?" She paused, then whispered, "I'm Amara." Kofi's face changed, full of fear. "The princess? If they catch you." "I don't care," she said bravely. "Tell me about you. Why do you sing?" Kofi checked for overseers again, then spoke fast. "I was taken from my village when I was little. The kora was my father's. It's all I have of him. I sing to keep my hope alive, to dream of being free." Before Amara could answer, a whip cracked close by. "Work faster," an overseer yelled, walking toward Kofi. Amara hid her face, her heart racing as Kofi went back to cutting. She slipped away, her mind full of his words. He dreamed of freedom like she did. But for him, dreaming was dangerous. As she walked back to the palace, the river seemed to sing Kofi's song. Amara knew she would see him again, no matter what it cost. His music had found a home in her heart, and she couldn't let it go. Amara's heart was heavy as she walked through the palace gardens, the scent of jasmine flowers thick in the air. The memory of Kofi's song in the fields stayed with her, like a tune she couldn't forget. But her father's words about marrying Prince Jelani felt like chains around her. She needed help, someone to guide her through the storm in her mind. So she went to find Elder Kwame, the kingdom's storyteller, who lived in a small hut near the river. Elder Kwame was old, his hair white as clouds, his eyes sharp like a hawk's. He was a griot, a keeper of Zuwena's stories, and people said he spoke with the ancestors' voices. His hut was full of carved masks, woven mats, and a small fire that never seemed to die. Amara knocked softly, her hands shaking. "Come in, child," Kwame's voice called, warm but strong. Amara stepped inside, bowing low. "Elder, I need your help. My heart is lost, and I don't know what to do." Kwame smiled, his wrinkles deep. "Sit, princess. The heart is a river. It flows where it must, but sometimes it needs a guide. Tell me your trouble." Amara took a deep breath. She couldn't tell him about Kofi, not yet. "I'm to marry a prince I don't love. But my heart wants something else, something forbidden. What should I do?" Kwame stirred the fire, sparks rising like tiny stars. "Let me tell you a story," he said. "Long ago, a river flowed through Zuwena, strong and wide. But one day it turned backward, against the earth's pull, to find its source. The people were afraid, saying it broke nature's rules. But the river knew its truth, and it found its beginning, bringing new life to the land." Amara frowned. "What does it mean?" Kwame's eyes twinkled. "Love is like that river, child. It can go against rules, but it's not easy. It asks for courage and sacrifice. You must decide if your heart is strong enough to flow backward." Amara's chest tightened. The story felt like it was about her and Kofi, but it scared her too. What if it hurts others? What if it's impossible? "Nothing is impossible," Kwame said. "But every choice has a price. Listen to your heart, but hear the ancestors too. They speak in the wind, in the trees, in your dreams." Amara left the hut, her mind spinning. The river sparkled under the sun, and she thought of Kofi's song about dreams carried to the sea. Kwame's words gave her hope, but also fear. She wanted to see Kofi again, to know if their hearts could be strong together. But how could she, with guards watching her every step? That night, she lay awake, the moon's light soft through her window. She whispered a promise to herself. She would find a way to meet Kofi, even if it meant sneaking out again. The river in Kwame's story was brave, and she would be too. The next evening, when the palace was quiet, Amara planned her escape. She waited until the guards changed shifts, then slipped into Malika's room. "I need your help," she whispered. "I'm going to see Kofi." Malika's eyes widened. "Amara, it's too dangerous. The king's guards are everywhere, and if they catch you with a slave..." I have to, Amara said, her voice firm. My heart won't let me stop. Please help me. Malika sighed but nodded. She gave Amara a plain dress and a dark cloak, then showed her a hidden path behind the palace kitchens. There's a big tree by the river where the slaves rest sometimes. Kofi might be there. But be quick and don't get caught. Amara hugged her friend, then ran into the night. The air was cool, and the river's soft rush guided her. The tree stood tall, its branches like arms reaching for the stars. She hid in its shadow, her heart racing, until she heard a familiar voice humming a tune. Kofi stepped out from the other side of the tree, carrying his kora. He froze when he saw her. Amara, what are you doing here? I couldn't stay away, she said, stepping closer. Your song, your words, they're part of me now. Kofi looked around, nervous. If anyone sees us, I'm dead. You know that. I know, Amara said, her eyes soft. But I don't care about rules tonight. Tell me a story, Kofi. Please. Kofi hesitated, then sat on the grass, his kora in his lap. All right, he said. There were 2 stars in the sky, born far apart. The heavens said they could never meet, but they shone brighter every night, calling to each other. One day they fell to earth, breaking all the rules, just to touch once. Amara sat beside him, her heart full. Did they stay together? Kofi smiled sadly. They burned so bright, they became one light. But the heavens never forgot their defiance. Amara's eyes stung with tears. The story felt like theirs, full of hope and danger. She touched his hand, and he didn't pull away. Kofi, I don't want to marry the prince. I want to be free, like the bird in your song. Kofi's voice was quiet. Freedom's a dream for me, Amara. For you, it's a choice. But it's a hard one. They sat in silence, the river singing softly. Amara pulled a small bead from her bracelet, a shiny blue stone, and pressed it into his hand. Keep this, she said. It's a piece of me. Kofi closed his fingers around it, his eyes warm. I'll keep it safe. A twig snapped nearby, and they jumped. Go, Kofi whispered. Amara ran back to the palace, her heart pounding but light. She had touched his hand, heard his story. It was worth the risk. The next morning, Amara woke to shouting. She ran to the throne room, where King Zubri stood, his face red with anger. Queen Nia was beside him, looking worried. Guards filled the room, and Malika stood in a corner, her head down. Amara, Zubri roared. A guard saw you leave the palace last night. You broke my trust again. What were you doing? Amara's stomach dropped. She glanced at Malika, who shook her head slightly, meaning she hadn't told. I just went for a walk, Amara said, her voice shaking. I needed air. Lies, Zubri said. People are talking, saying you're too wild for a princess. I won't let you shame this family. He turned to the guards. From now on, she stays in her rooms unless I say otherwise. And I'm making a new rule. Any slave caught with a royal gift, like a bead or cloth, will be punished with death. Amara's heart stopped. The bead she gave Kofi, it could kill him. She wanted to scream, to tell her father to stop, but her voice wouldn't come. Queen Nia stepped forward, her voice calm. Husband, she's young. Give her time to learn. She's had enough time, Zubri said. Prince Jelani arrives soon. She'll marry him and act like a princess. Amara was taken to her room, the door locked behind her. She sank to the floor, tears falling. Kofi was in danger because of her. She had to warn him, but how? She knocked on the wall, hoping Malika could hear in the next room. Malika slipped in later, using a servant's key. Amara, I'm so sorry, she whispered. I didn't tell, but the guards are watching everyone now. The bead, Amara said, her voice breaking. I gave Kofi a bead last night. If they find it, he'll die. Malika's face paled. I'll try to get a message to him, but it's risky. Amara, you have to stop this. It's not just your heart at stake anymore. I can't, Amara said. I love him, Malika. I know it's wrong, but it's true. Malika hugged her. Then we'll find a way. But be careful. The river's flowing backward now, and it's dangerous. Amara nodded, her heart torn between fear and hope. She didn't know how to save Kofi, but she wouldn't give up. Their love was like the stars in his story, bright, defiant, and worth fighting for. The Festival of Ancestors was Zuwena's biggest celebration, a time to honor those who came before. The village glowed with lanterns, and the air smelled of roasted maize and sweet honey cakes. People wore white to show respect, their voices rising in songs for the spirits. Amara, locked in her room for days, begged her mother to let her go. Mother, it's our tradition, Amara said, her eyes pleading. The ancestors will be angry if I don't join. Queen Nia sighed, her face soft but worried. Your father is still angry, Amara. But I'll convince him. Promise you'll stay with the guards. Amara nodded, hiding her real plan. She had to see Kofi, to warn him about the bead and the king's new rule. Malika had sent a message to the fields, but Amara wasn't sure it reached him. Tonight, in the festival's chaos, she might find him. That evening, Amara wore a white dress with silver beads, her hair braided with shells. Guards followed her to the village, but the crowd was thick, and she hoped to slip away. The square was alive with dancers, their feet stomping to drums. Storytellers chanted tales of old heroes, and children tossed flower petals for the ancestors. Amara scanned the crowd, her heart racing. Then she saw Kofi near a fire, his kora in his hands. He was playing a soft tune, his face calm but sad. She moved closer, staying in the shadows. Their eyes met, and he nodded slightly, pointing to a quiet corner behind a grain stall. She waited until a dance started, then slipped away from the guards. Kofi was there, hidden by sacks of millet. Amara, he whispered, his voice warm but scared. You shouldn't be here. I had to warn you, she said, her words fast. The king says any slave with a royal gift will die. You have to hide the bead I gave you. Kofi touched his pocket, where the blue bead was wrapped in cloth. I keep it close, but I'll bury it tonight. Amara, you need to stop them. They'll kill me, and you'll lose everything. I can't stop, Amara said, her eyes shining. I love you, Kofi. Kofi's breath caught. He stepped closer, and for a moment, they forgot the danger. The drums grew loud, and they joined the dancers, blending into the crowd. Their hands brushed, and they spun together, laughing like they were free. It was only a moment, but it felt like forever. Then a voice cut through the music. Princess Amara? It was Prince Jelani, the man she was to marry. He stood tall, his robes bright with gold, his smile sharp. Why are you dancing with a slave? Amara froze, her heart pounding. I was just dancing, she said, stepping back. Jelani's eyes narrowed, looking at Kofi. Be careful, princess. Some choices bring trouble. He walked away, but his words felt like a warning. Kofi pulled Amara aside. Go back to your guards. He's dangerous. Amara nodded, her chest tight. She returned to the guards, but her heart stayed with Kofi. As the festival ended, she prayed he'd be safe, but a bad feeling grew inside her. The next day, the palace was quiet, but Amara felt a storm coming. She stayed in her room, thinking of Kofi and the bead. Had he hidden it? She wanted to send Malika to check, but guards watched her door, and she was scared to put her friend in danger. In the fields, Kofi worked under the hot sun, his kora hidden in a sack. He had buried the bead under a rock by the river, but he felt uneasy. Another slave, a man named Deka, watched him closely. Deka was older, his eyes hard from years of pain. He wanted freedom, and he thought Kofi's secret could help him. That afternoon, Deka went to the overseer, a cruel man with a scarred face. Kofi has something he shouldn't, Deka said. A royal bead. I saw him hide it by the river. The overseer grinned, seeing a chance to please the king. He took guards to the river, found the bead, and dragged Kofi from the fields. They tied his hands and threw him into a dark cell under the palace. Kofi didn't fight. He knew it would only make things worse, but his heart ached for Amara. In the palace, Amara heard shouts and ran to her window. She saw guards leading Kofi, his head down. Her knees went weak, and she sank to the floor. No, she whispered. Not him. Malika slipped into her room, her face pale. They found the bead, Amara. Someone told. Kofi's in trouble. It's my fault, Amara said, tears falling. I gave him the bead. I have to save him. You can't, Malika said. The king's rule is clear. If you speak for Kofi, they'll know you love him. You'll lose your place, and he might still die. Amara stood, her hands shaking. I don't care about my place. I won't let him die. Queen Nia came to her room later, her eyes full of worry. Amara, I heard about the slave. Tell me you're not part of this. Amara looked away, her voice small. I love him, mother. I can't let him suffer. Nia hugged her, her voice soft. Oh, my child. Love is beautiful, but it's dangerous. Your father won't forgive this. Think carefully before you act. Amara nodded, but her heart was set. She would face her father, no matter the cost. Kofi's life was worth more than her crown. The next morning, the palace courtyard was packed with people, royals, villagers, and slaves, all whispering about the slave who broke the king's rule. A wooden platform stood in the center, where Kofi was brought, his hands tied. His face was bruised, but his eyes were strong, like he wouldn't let fear win. Amara stood with her parents on a high balcony, her heart pounding. King Zubri looked angry, his voice loud. This slave, Kofi, held a royal bead against my law. The punishment is death. Does anyone speak for him? The crowd was silent. Amara's chest hurt. She couldn't stay quiet. She stepped forward, her voice shaking but clear. I speak for him. I gave him the bead. He's not guilty. Punish me instead. The crowd gasped. Zubri's face turned dark, and Nia grabbed Amara's arm, whispering, What are you doing? I love him, father, Amara said, tears in her eyes. Kofi's heart is good. He doesn't deserve to die. The people murmured, some angry, some moved. Prince Jelani, standing nearby, smirked like he'd expected trouble. Zubri raised his hand for silence. You shame me, Amara. You choose a slave over your duty? I choose love, Amara said. If that's wrong, then punish me. Kofi looked at her, his eyes full of pain and pride. Amara, don't, he said softly. Live your life. Before Zubri could speak, Elder Kwame stepped onto the platform, his staff tapping the ground. His voice was calm but strong. Great King, let me speak. This is no simple crime. Love has stirred the ancestors' hearts. Let Amara and Kofi prove their love is pure, through a trial in the sacred grove, where the spirits judge. The crowd whispered, excited and scared. The sacred grove was a holy place, full of old magic. Zubri frowned, but the people cheered for Kwame's idea. He nodded slowly. Very well. Amara and Kofi will face the grove's trial. If they fail, both will pay the price. Amara's heart lifted, but fear followed. The grove was dangerous, and its trials were hard. She looked at Kofi, who nodded slightly, like he trusted her. They would face it together, for a chance at love and freedom. As guards took Kofi away, Amara felt the ancestors watching. The river in Kwame's story was flowing backward now, and she would follow it, no matter where it led. The morning sun was pale as Amara and Kofi were led from the palace, their hands tied with soft ropes. The crowd watched silently, some with hope, others with anger. The sacred grove was a day's walk away, a place of tall trees and strange whispers, where the ancestors judged the brave. Elder Kwame walked ahead, his staff tapping the ground, while guards followed to ensure Amara and Kofi faced the trials. Amara's heart was heavy but strong. She glanced at Kofi, whose face was calm, though his eyes held fear. We'll get through this, she whispered. Kofi nodded. Together, he said, his voice steady. The path wound through grasslands, where antelope leaped and birds sang. The river sparkled nearby, its sound like a soft song. Amara thought of Elder Kwame's story about the river flowing backward. She and Kofi were like that river, fighting to find their way, no matter the cost. By dusk, they reached the sacred grove. The trees were huge, their branches twisted like old hands reaching for the sky. A cool wind carried whispers, like voices from long ago. Kwame stopped at the grove's edge, his eyes serious. The ancestors will test your courage, trust, and love, he said. You must face 3 trials. If you pass, you'll return with their blessing. If you fail, the grove will keep you. The guards cut their ropes, and Amara took Kofi's hand. They stepped into the grove, the trees closing around them like a wall. The air felt alive, and shadows moved in the corners of their eyes. The first trial came quickly, a narrow path blocked by a deep pit filled with sharp thorns. You must cross, a voice whispered, not human but clear. One may carry the other, but the thorns will cut. Amara's stomach twisted. I'll carry you, she said to Kofi. No, Kofi said. I'm stronger. I'll take the pain. They argued, but Kofi won. He lifted Amara onto his back and stepped into the pit. The thorns scratched his legs, drawing blood, but he kept going, his teeth clenched. Amara held tight, tears in her eyes. When they reached the other side, the pit vanished, and Kofi's wounds healed, like the grove approved. The second trial was a dark cave, its entrance glowing with strange light. Enter and face your fears, the voice said. Inside, Amara saw her father's angry face, shouting she'd shamed the kingdom. She saw herself alone, her crown gone. Kofi saw his village burning, his family lost again. They held hands, their voices shaking as they told each other the fears. You're enough, Amara said to Kofi. You're my home, he said back. The cave's light faded, and they stepped out, the fear gone. The grove felt quieter now, but Amara sensed the hardest trial was coming. She squeezed Kofi's hand, ready for whatever the ancestors asked. The third trial waited in a clearing, where a single tree stood, its trunk wide and scarred. A stone altar glowed under its branches, and the ancestor's voice was loud, like thunder. "Love demands sacrifice," it said. "Only one may leave the grove. Choose who stays, or both will perish." Amara's heart stopped. She looked at Kofi, whose face was pale but strong. "No," she whispered. "We won't choose." "You must," the voice said, "or the grove will take you both." Kofi stepped forward, his voice steady. "I'll stay," he said. "Amara, you're a princess. You can change Zuwena, make it better. My life's worth less." "No." Amara grabbed his arm, tears falling. "You're worth everything. I'll stay. I'm tired of the crown. You deserve to be free, Kofi." They argued, their voices breaking. Amara offered her title, her future, everything to save Kofi. Kofi offered his life, saying he'd face the ancestors if it meant she could live. The tree seemed to listen, its leaves rustling in the still air. Finally, Amara knelt before the altar. "Ancestors, take me," she said. "Kofi's heart is pure. His songs can heal the kingdom. Let him go." Kofi knelt beside her, his hand on hers. "No, take me," he said. "Amara's love is stronger than any crown. She'll make Zuwena fair." The grove was silent, the air heavy. Then the voice spoke, softer now. "Your love is true. You give all for each other, asking nothing in return. The ancestors are pleased." Light burst from the altar, warm and bright. A small amulet, carved with a river and 2 stars, appeared on the stone. "Take this," the voice said. "It proves your love. Return to Zuwena, but know your path is not done. Change the kingdom, or your love will fade." Amara picked up the amulet, her hands shaking. Kofi hugged her, his breath shaky with relief. They had passed the trials, but the ancestors' words scared her. Change Zuwena? How could they, when the kingdom was so divided? As they left the grove, the trees seemed to bow, and the river sang louder. Amara held the amulet tight, feeling Kofi's hand in hers. They were alive together, but the hardest fight was still ahead. Amara and Kofi returned to Zuwena at dawn, their clothes torn but their hearts strong. The crowd waited in the courtyard, gasping when they saw the amulet. Elder Kwame stepped forward, his eyes wide. "The ancestors have spoken," he said, holding up the amulet. "Their love is pure." The people cheered, but not everyone was happy. Prince Jelani, standing with his guards, frowned, his eyes cold. Some royals whispered that Amara had shamed the kingdom, while slaves and villagers clapped, inspired by her courage. King Zubri stood on the balcony, his face hard to read. "Father, please," Amara said, stepping forward. "Kofi and I passed the trials. The ancestors want us to be together. Let us stay." Zubri's voice was low, like a storm brewing. "You defied me, Amara. You chose a slave over your duty. The ancestors may approve, but I rule Zuwena." He turned to the guards. "Take Kofi to the borderlands. He's banished, never to return." Amara gasped, her heart breaking. "No, Father, you can't." Kofi squeezed her hand, his voice calm. "It's all right, Amara. I'm alive because of you. I'll be okay." Guards pulled Kofi away, and Amara fell to her knees, sobbing. Queen Nia hugged her, whispering, "Be strong, my child. This isn't the end." The crowd was divided. Some shouted for Kofi's freedom, others for tradition. Prince Jelani stepped forward, his voice smooth. "King Zubri is wise. A princess cannot love a slave. Let us plan the royal wedding, as it should be." Amara stood, wiping her tears. "I'll never marry you," she said, loud enough for all to hear. "My heart belongs to Kofi." The crowd gasped again, and Jelani's smile faded. Zubri sent Amara to her room, but her words spread like fire. Villagers whispered about the princess who loved a slave, and slaves sang Kofi's songs, dreaming of change. In the borderlands, Kofi sat under a tree, his kora in his hands. He played a new song, about 2 stars that fell but kept shining. His music reached Zuwena, carried by travelers, and gave people hope. Amara, locked in her room, heard the tune in her heart. She knew she had to fight, for Kofi, for love, for a kingdom where no one was chained. Amara sat in her locked room, the amulet from the sacred grove clutched in her hand. Its carved river and stars reminded her of Kofi, now banished to the borderlands. Her heart ached, but her tears had dried. She was done crying, she had to fight. The ancestors had told her to change Zuwena, and she would, even if it meant facing her father's anger. Malika slipped in through a servant's door, her eyes bright with news. "Amara, the people are talking. Villagers sing Kofi's songs, and slaves whisper about freedom. Your love has started something big." "Then I'll make it bigger," Amara said, standing. "Help me get out, Malika. I need to speak to the people." Malika frowned, scared. The guards are everywhere, and Prince Jelani watches you. If you're caught, the king might punish you worse. I don't care, Amara said. Kofi's out there, and I won't let our love be for nothing. That night, Malika distracted the guards with a spilled tray of fruit, and Amara sneaked to the village. She wore a plain cloak, but her voice was strong as she stood in the square, where lanterns glowed. People gathered, curious, as she spoke. My name is Amara, your princess, she said, pulling off her hood. I love Kofi, a slave, and the ancestors blessed our love. But Zuwena's rules keep us apart. They chain good people like Kofi and hurt us all. We can be better, a kingdom where everyone is free. The crowd murmured, some cheering, others unsure. A woman with a baby on her back shouted, What about the king? He won't change. He's my father, Amara said, her voice shaking. I love him, but he's wrong. Help me show him a new way. A young slave stepped forward, his eyes bold. I heard Kofi's songs. They give us hope. I'll stand with you, princess. More voices joined, villagers and slaves together. Amara's heart swelled. She wasn't alone. But as she spoke, guards pushed through the crowd, led by Prince Jelani. His smile was cold. Princess, you're causing trouble. Come back to the palace, or these people will suffer. Amara stood tall. I'm not afraid, Jelani. The people deserve better. The guards took her back, but her words spread like wildfire. In the fields, slaves sang louder, refusing to bow. In the village, mothers told their children about the princess who loved a slave. And in the borderlands, Kofi played his kora, his music traveling on the wind, stirring hearts. Amara, locked in her room again, felt the change growing. She prayed Kofi was safe, knowing they were fighting the same battle, even miles apart. Zuwena was on edge. Slaves worked slowly, singing Kofi's songs, and villagers argued in the markets, some for tradition, others for change. King Zubri called a meeting in the courtyard, his face tired. Amara was brought from her room, her hands free but guards close. Prince Jelani stood nearby, his eyes sharp, while Queen Nia watched with hope. Zubri spoke to the crowd, his voice loud. Zuwena is strong because of our rules. But some, like my daughter, want to break them. This must stop, or our kingdom will fall. Amara's heart raced. She stepped forward, ignoring the guards. Father, our rules hurt people. Slaves like Kofi work hard, but have no freedom. The ancestors blessed my love for him. They want Zuwena to change. Listen to them, and to our people. The crowd cheered, but some shouted against her. Jelani raised his hand, his voice smooth. The princess is young and foolish. Slaves must stay in their place, or chaos will come. King Zubri, send her away with me, and I'll teach her duty. No, Amara said. I won't marry you, Jelani. My heart is Kofi's. Before Zubri could answer, a drumbeat echoed. The crowd parted and Kofi walked in, his kora on his back, his face brave. Gasps filled the air. He had broken his banishment. Guards moved to grab him, but villagers blocked their way, shouting, Let him speak. Kofi stood beside Amara, his hand brushing hers. King Zubri, he said, I'm a slave, but I'm a man. I love your daughter, and I've seen Zuwena's heart. Your people want fairness. Free the slaves, and your kingdom will be stronger. Zubri's face darkened. You dare speak to me? Guards, take him. But the crowd roared, pushing forward. Slaves dropped their tools, and villagers raised their voices. Freedom, they chanted. Listen to the princess. Elder Kwame climbed onto a platform, holding the amulet from the grove. King, the ancestors chose Amara and Kofi, he said. Their love is a sign. The river flows backward now, bringing new life. Free the slaves, or Zuwena will break. Zubri looked at the crowd, then at Amara and Kofi standing together. Queen Nia touched his arm, her voice soft. Husband, our daughter is right. The ancestors speak through her. Be the king who builds a better Zuwena. Zubri's shoulders sagged. He raised his hand for silence, his voice heavy. I've held tradition tight, but I see now it's chained us all. From today, slavery ends in Zuwena. Kofi, you're free, and you may stay. The crowd erupted in cheers, hats flying, voices singing. Amara hugged Kofi, tears of joy on her face. Jelani slipped away, his plans broken. Zubri looked at Amara, his eyes soft. I'm proud of you, he whispered, but you've given me much to learn. Amara smiled, holding Kofi's hand. The river's song seemed to join the crowds, a promise of a new day. A month later, Zuwena was healing. Slaves were free, given land to farm or jobs in the village. Some left to find their old homes, but many stayed, building a new life. The kingdom's rules were changing, with villagers and former slaves helping make them fair. King Zubri listened more, guided by Queen Nia and Amara. Under the big tree by the river, where Amara and Kofi first shared a story, a wedding was held. Amara wore a white dress with blue beads, her smile brighter than the sun. Kofi, in a woven tunic, held his Kora, his eyes never leaving her. The village gathered, singing and drumming, while Elder Kwame blessed them. "You are the river that flowed backward," Kwame said, holding the amulet. "Your love changed Zuwena. May it shine like the stars forever." Amara and Kofi spoke their vows, promising to love and fight for each other. They danced under the tree, the crowd clapping, the river sparkling. Queen Nia wiped tears, and even Zubri smiled, his heart lighter. That night, as stars filled the sky, Amara and Kofi sat by the river, his Kora soft in the quiet. "We did it," Amara said, leaning on his shoulder. "Zuwena's free because of us." Kofi kissed her forehead. "Not just us. The people, the ancestors, they all helped. Our love was the spark." Subscribe, like and share for more interesting stories like this.